On Halloween night in 2016, in a small town nestled in the woods of Pennsylvania, the air was cold, and as dusk fell, the sky filled with thick clouds as if they were watching over the land. At that time, there was a young woman named Emily, a college student in her senior year who loved Halloween more than anything. But this year, Emily decided to enjoy the occasion in a different way. Instead of attending parties or traditional events, she decided to take a late-night walk in the woods behind her family's cabin, a place that was known to be secluded from prying eyes. Emily knew the woods well, as she had grown up in the area. But little did she know she was about to face more than just dark trees and rustling leaves. Emily decided to bring her two friends, Matt and Sarah, along for the adventure. Both were excited and laughing as they strolled through the woods. The atmosphere that evening was strange. The wind howled through the trees, making the branches creak as if they were watching them. The sky was stormy and dark, and the moon was hidden behind the clouds, making the forest feel like it was from another world. Despite the eerie atmosphere, the friends clung to their good spirits and didn't feel scared. As they ventured deeper into the woods, Sarah decided to take some photos to capture the moment. She pulled out her phone, trying to take pictures of the twisted branches and the ancient trees that surrounded them like they were watching. Then, in a sudden moment, Sarah looked up and saw something unusual. In the shadow, not far off, there was a figure standing, still as could be, barely visible. It was a person, but their face was unclear, and they weren't moving. "Who's that?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. Emily, who hadn't noticed the man before, also looked toward the shadow. In that moment, the figure vanished as if it had never been there. Emily's eyes darted back to the spot where the figure had been, but there was nothing. Just darkness. "Maybe it's someone else out for a walk," Emily said, trying to reassure Sarah. But Sarah, who felt something was wrong, couldn't shake the uneasy feeling growing inside her. And she wasn't the only one. Matt also began to feel a strange discomfort. The atmosphere was heavy, and the wind had suddenly stopped. The silence was overwhelming, as though nature itself had frozen in place. As their unease grew, they decided to head back to the cabin. They began walking faster, but the sounds of footsteps grew louder behind them. At first, the sounds were faint, like soft footsteps, but with each passing moment, the footsteps seemed to draw closer. They tried to hurry, but the sounds kept following them, growing nearer. It felt as though someone was right behind them. "Run!" Emily screamed, turning and sprinting toward the cabin with Matt and Sarah close behind. They finally reached the cabin, breathless and terrified. But when they looked out the window, they didn't see anyone following them. It was completely silent outside, the woods empty. But the next day, they decided to report what had happened to the police. Officers arrived at the cabin and asked about the details. After listening to their story, the officer revealed something chilling. They were the first to notice strange things happening in those woods. The officer mentioned that there had been reports of strange creatures spotted in the area in the days leading up to the event. However, no one had dared to investigate. The officer then added something that made their hearts stop. "When we arrived at the scene, we found something terrifying. There were footprints, but they weren't human. They were huge, with claws instead of feet. There's no logical explanation for these tracks." This discovery sent a shiver down their spines. Since that night, Emily, Matt, and Sarah have been certain that what they experienced wasn't just a hallucination or a strange occurrence. There was something else out there in the woods, something they couldn't explain. From that moment on, Emily, Matt, and Sarah avoided the woods whenever Halloween came around. And every time they thought back to that night, the fear returned, as if something was still watching them from the shadows.